Hello and welcome to the Dog Savant podcast. Today is episode 83. My name is Brett Endies. I am your host. I am a professional dog trainer. The purpose of this podcast is to help you if you are a dog owner who is seeking training advice. If you have a dog and would like to understand them or solve their behavior problems, or if you're a client in the real world and you'd like some supplemental information to the work we're doing, this podcast is for you. With that all said, as always, I always ask to please rate, review, share, subscribe. Let everyone know that this show has helped you. Other people can find it that way. And we are living in a virtual world, so I am trying to put more content so that would help me not just be motivated, but also just help more people become listeners of the show. I also have a Patreon page now. It is patreon.com/thedogsavant, THEDOGSAVANT. And if I can answer any of your dog training or related questions or anything otherwise, contact me, dogtrainingla@gmail.com. You can go on my website. I have two, dogtrainingla@dogtrainingla.com. That's my California site. And my Colorado site, where I'm located right now, is gooddogcolorado.com. Okay, so I was thinking about what to talk about. I was actually just listening to another podcast, and someone was talking about what they went through when they had an illness a while back, and just related to why they're kind of holding up and not wanting to get out there or take any unnecessary risks until we really know 100% what's going on with the whole COVID-19 epidemic. Me included, and I figured I'd share my story. I've probably touched on it, maybe talked about it a little in previous podcasts or other things I put out there. But I myself, back in 1995, if anyone can recall, if they were around, and old enough those days, it was the flesh-eating bacteria, the strep virus, or they had different names for it, but basically people were dying for it. It wasn't like this where it was a pandemic and worldwide people had to stay in their homes and everything was shut down, but people were scared. No one really knew anyone, but you'd hear on the news someone would die, and it was pretty much after you get it, it was a high rate of fatality. So I'm a 20-year-old, half in college, semi-dropped out of college kid, living in Denver with my roommate John, and I start feeling kind of a sore throaty kind of thing. And you don't pay much mind when you're young, you feel you're invincible, and I just figured it would go away. And a couple more days passes and it started getting pretty bad where, it's got to be like strep throat. So I go to the doctor, they assume it's strep throat, they give me medication, nothing helps. Day later, it's so bad, it's late at night. My roommate John takes me to the emergency room this is beyond. Again, they say it's just strep throat, they minimize it, they gave me some stronger antibiotics and some painkillers, and really almost made me feel like it was in my head. A day later, that's when it really turned. I collapsed. My girlfriend at the time and my roommate, they gathered me up, rushed me to the emergency room. They realized something was going on more than strep throat at that point. And they took me in, they did a scan, they scoped me, all that, and they realized what it was. And what I had was self-necrotizing fasciitis, and that was the flesh-eating bacteria, and it was in my neck. So what happened was I had this giant abscess. It looked like somebody had inflated the right side of my neck, and it was just so painful, and I couldn't swallow, and it was getting hard to breathe every day. And they were like, "You're not going home. You're going right to emergency surgery." My mother in New York at the time had a fly-in last minute, authorized that, even though I was, they needed an next of kin because I was delirious. I was in so much pain. I barely knew what was going on. So they had done surgery. They cut out the abscess. I had tubes coming out of my neck. I was in the hospital for 7 days. It was a thing. I mean, it was very close. And they said, "You are very lucky. If we didn't catch it maybe in a day, you would have not been here." They even had said, one of the things that I always think about. Oh, sorry, the phone dropped, guys. I always think about is that right before I was going under anesthesia, I had asked, well, if they're cutting open my neck, are they going to have to take out my voice box or anything like that? And the nurse anesthesiologist was like, well, they looked at each other kind of, I was like, oh gosh, and they're like, you never know. And then I go under. So I remember when I woke up from the surgery, the first thing I remember, it was so, I heard my voice, right? So I'm lucky. As I clear my throat here. That's just talking. So I'm lucky, I'm fortunate. However, I always, anything related to my throat, neck, head, I get so nervous. As I get older, I'm 46, just as someone who wants to stay around as long as possible, you get any little ting or pain or odd sensation, you're on it. So, needless to say, I'm not going to say I'm a germaphobe, but I'm pretty alert to things that aren't going to keep me safe and healthy. I'm always trying to regard my health, although not so much now because you're limited in what you can eat, but soon we will have the IG homestead up and running, and we'll have fresh produce and rainbow trout and eggs. Anyway, not to get off topic, but this scares me a bit, makes me nervous, and I'm smart enough to know when I found out this happened, I got out of LA, got to my place here in Colorado. I have a house here. I am setting up my work here where I have clients either work with me virtually, which I'm doing lots of now, and also having dogs come here to board and train either locally or they can send their dog to me, and there'll be minimal human contact, if any. But I'm not going anywhere. Anything coming through Amazon, I'm going through the process of disinfecting, letting it sit in the garage or opening it with gloves and really being cautious. And just, I don't want to take the risk. Not only am I, I'm still young enough and healthy enough where I wouldn't fit the demographic of those most at risk, but I don't want to get sick. I don't want to be on a ventilator. I don't want to have long-term damage, and I certainly don't want to take the risk of what happened, because I'm telling you now, when you really go through it and you're like, I mean, if you remember the flesh-eating bacteria and you heard the news, the strep virus, did you think you were going to get it, or anyone recently the Ebola virus or something? It's like, oh, that's not me. That's some third world country. That's someone who doesn't, that lives, I don't know. It's just not going to happen to me. That's how our brains work. And it happened. It happened to me. I was so close. And I'm telling you, it is so, I can't take that risk because this is more common. And it's not about me. It's just about sharing my experience, that this, when things really hit home, because people say, Brett, come on, man, you can go to the store, you can go to, go to a fast food place or a takeout. I'm like, I really, really am not comfortable. I'll send Kate, my girlfriend, out to do things if we have to get some essential needs. But I make sure she's cautious because I don't want her to get sick. But she's a little younger and she's just less worried. The anxiety, even in itself, even when I'm 100% safe and having things under control, it has such an after effect for me. I don't know if it's PTSD or I'm just an anxious, neurotic guy to begin with, but it's almost not worth it. I'd rather, keep my whatever I have. I'm happy with what I can eat and have in the home and minimally get out there. Actually, if you hear them in the car, as usual, I'm going to pick up my daughter. I do an hour each way to go get her on the weekends here, and I don't leave the car. I make sure we're filled with gas. She gets in, make sure she's good. She's been very, very cautious and safe. Her mom's very cautious and safe as well. So, and then we go straight back home. I get back out of the car in about an hour and 45 minutes when I'm back home in the mountains. So, for now, that's how I have to live. However, I've been doing the virtual training. I'm not making nearly as much as I used to. I just want to pay my bills, so it has helped. It's not fully supporting me, but it's been enough to also, as I said last podcast, make me feel like my purpose is still being met. Just came from another session, a client of mine with a bulldog, where I'd seen him as a puppy, and now she had to move back home because of what's going on. And it's just with the other family members, we have to work on them being, creating more structure and leadership for the dog. That she was great. She actually was reciting stuff I taught her, a good year ago, verbatim. So she definitely has been pretty good and consistent. But we work with them. But point is that it's worked, and it's been helping. I'm charging a discounted rate for people. If here's my little advertising spiel. But not more than that. I feel good on those days that I do that. If I get a few days in a row where I'm not doing anything dog related, even though I'm doing other things to be productive, keep busy and distracted, my real true calling is the dog training. That's who I am. It's what I've done for so many years of my life, and it's what I feel most comfortable talking about. And it's even why I'm doing more podcast episodes. It's I have the time, but I also need to get this dog advice stuff out of my system and know I'm helping. It feels good. If you're new to the podcast, this is the first one you're listening to, this is not dog training related, but most are. And if you haven't listened to all the podcasts, you can go through the catalog. I have a lot of episodes related to just specific dog training topics. Case in point is last episode we talked about leash training, how to teach your dog to walk on a leash, heel command. There's just plenty of that. So yeah, that's my experience. Figured I'd just kind of stream of consciousness here, talk a little bit about what I went through in not a pandemic, but where there was something going around that was getting the public eye and getting people a little concerned, and people were dying from it, so on and so forth. And there was such a high fatality rate. I have to realize that. Sometimes I don't, but if I do more, I'll stay safe in situations like this. People can, and I'll, maybe appreciate the good times as well. Oh, let's see. Let's answer a dog training question. Okay, I'm gonna have to just look at my little paper here. Okay, I've talked about this before. I think I've even did a podcast episode about it. Is that my dog is great when it's just me and him, but when there's more people in the house, he starts trying to go after the other dog we live with. They play, they're fine, they've never had an issue, but I find now around them, and also sometimes food/toys, this becomes a problem. Okay, so I always ask, first question when I hear something like that is, how is the dog, even though he or she may not be being aggressive in general or reacting to the other dogs, are they calm around the house? Do they go with the flow? Or are they just hyper vigilant all the time? Following, tracking, reacting, anticipating, asking for things, getting up in your space, not respecting boundaries, trying to rush ahead all the time. Well, that has to be addressed, because what happens is that when it's just kind of one-on-one or just the everyday common people or routines, the dog is just like, well, I can kind of be a step ahead, kind of shoot around, expect my needs getting met, having things on my terms sometimes. All is fine and well. The other dog doesn't pose a threat in my perception of it all. Now, you get more things going on, and then there's a higher state of alert, or there's food at stake, and there's more of that. I always say, when you're just hanging out in your living room, Sunday afternoon, nothing going on, not a care in the world, it's a different mode than when you are at work, or if you are, me who has sensory processing issues. I know when I have less going on around me, I can kind of get my thoughts more organized. I can deal with stimuli, what's going on around me, be more present with people when I'm engaging them. That's why I like focusing on dog training, because when I'm with a client, I can focus on one thing in one mode, and it is makes me very present. It's kind of amazing, because it's hard sometimes. So there's different modes we get in. So for a dog, if they're just like me, I'm a little more potential to get anxious and react, and if something transitions or is overstimulating, I have a harder time filtering it, and that's what happens with dogs. Like, well, again, if there's more people around, that means that there's more to worry about, more to be alert to, what's happening next on 3 different levels instead of one. And then the other dog, for certain dogs with these issues, can misinterpret the dog that they even live with as a threat. I even talk about the walks like this. If a dog is walking in a hyper alert way, and they're ahead and they're patrolling and they're just 10 blocks ahead before you even get there, by the time they see some kind of new stimuli, the startle response is so strong. If you're high alert, you're just already suspicious for something and it startles you. It's different than if you're relaxed and chill and it just filters, and that's less of a intense initial response. So we have to do that. Now, I always want to give the why, right? I talk about, well, why is your dog doing this? The how is very simple. Just have your dog in a structured environment more, doing place training, many podcasts and videos and episodes of the Untrainables on that subject. Up to and including when you have guests over. And you also have to create a certain kind of relationship that claims the environment and the shared interactions or social engagements with other people in and out of the home or around the other dogs as defaulting to you for guidance. Calm associations made. So even around the other dog, structured walks together, dual training, dual place training, where they stay in one place. Place training is just like two kids going to school, focusing on the lesson at hand and not having an argument even if they have some kind of issue, and then learning that, well, at least when we're around this person, aka the teacher, parents, whatever it is, we can be calm, cool, collected, and not have to think of these bigger picture issues that make us have a rift. Now with people, it's a little more gray area. There's more explanation. There's rules of society. Dogs are dogs. They're animals. They can go to that, well, I am now high alert. I'm misinterpreting who and what you are, my other dog I live with, and now I'm going to react to you. And most times they just react. They're not true aggressive. They're just trying to create space, stop the movement, control the situation, and we have to be very preemptive in it. So you have to do place training, structure, calm associations, compartmentalize the day with the structure. You have to make sure they get exercise, walks, and getting their movement, so that at home when they're sitting in their place, laying there calm, it's fair, fine, and it actually is a good alternate to them being just hyper alert all the time and always ready to go zipping around the house. And then you have to do his exercises with the other dogs, and if it means keeping it safe, being a little more cautious because these things escalate, that's fine. You know, if you have to have your other dogs segregated, you know, and just give them alternate time until you can have them under control and work on the training and do that multiple times a day, no problem. But if your dogs are fighting, or if one dog is being the aggressor, you really need to take a step back and get real strong structure, take this real seriously. I've even done podcasts on getting serious, because it is serious to your dog. If it's a life or death situation, even though we know it's not, we got to regard it from their point of view, and with that, implement the training consistently. Okay, I hope that helps. All right, so as always, please don't forget, review, share, subscribe, tell a friend. It really helps me. If you're someone who's media savvy and knows how to get this seen more, that really helps. I'm really relying more on online training, both one-on-one, and also we're creating some programs on Teachable that will be courses for a nominal fee that will teach you what I teach people in the real world. So I'm going to give more versions of me via that way as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great day. Stay safe.